What's up, Warriors, and welcome to another episode of the Mental Health Movement podcast, Voice for the Voiceless. I'm your host, Chris. Today's special guest we have, he has 27 years experience of being a life and relationship coach. He is also a best-selling author. Please help me welcome Dr. Ray Doctor. Ray, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Good
Thank you
to
so much for reaching out and coming on. Sorry about the little bit of hassle that we had coming in, but I appreciate you taking time out of your week.
thank you. I love doing this work, and if I can help people out there navigate their emotions and their life better, that's that's my purpose.
Yeah, man. So let's talk about your journey into, getting into your line of work. How did this all come to be for you? What made you want to help people?
Well, interesting. The first experience I had where I helped someone was when I was probably 3 or 4 years old, and a little baby fell into the deep end of a pool.
Oh, wow.
And there was no parents around. And my mother and her friend were talking in the living room, and my brother was trying to get the girl while she couldn't swim. Like he put some object out there, but nothing was happening. But I didn't really like try to help. I didn't immediately. I knew I needed to get an adult. I just darted into the living room or into the house, and the mother came out. She jumped in with her clothes, and the baby was fine. And it's interesting. I have not ever shared that story on the
Wow.
podcast or anywhere. I just remember that. I remember that good feeling. I remember that good feeling of, my mom and basically my parents being proud and how good it felt to be able to help someone. And that mother cried and held me too, like I was a hero.
Powerful.
So
Powerful.
sometimes maybe it started then, but I remember being 16 years old and I was on LSD. And I remember being at a table and I was having these deep conversations with people. And I remember being very astute to what was going on, to where I was able to call things out. And I just had this hyper awareness. And maybe it was because I had died once before. I had a near death experience when I was 6 and when I was 16. And so in that, I remember that one moment of doing LSD, and I remember even the people were there where I had this interest of like talking to people. Of course, not on LSD, but but that's probably kind of where the excitement began. And then just like a lot of men who are angry, who are not able to save money or to get the car they want or the woman they want or this, the social currency. Um, I, I would party sometimes and I was a little bit out of control and I got 2 DUIs. And on the second one, I went to a counselor. I was mandated to, and that led to conversations where I recognized I needed to work on myself. And that started around when I was 24.
Oh,
And then the
wow.
rest is where, I working with a therapist, working, on myself, it just became kind of a natural thing, like an excitement. But I was also a musician, and I still am. In fact, I played in an 80s parody band up until March 13th, 2020.
Oh,
So
wow.
when the country shut down, that's when my band, we played our last gig. Uh, but in that, when I had my music career happening. I owned a recording studio, but I started to get into holistic health, coaching, and it started to excite me. But, I had this idea I would be a rock star, this idea that this is what I really want to do when I was really good at coaching, but I was kind of denying it. It's kind of interesting. Like, no, I'm not supposed to be Dr. Ray. I'm not supposed to. And then when I hit like think 30 years old, I recognized that I was getting more excitement of helping people. And that led to going back and finishing school, get my master's and doctorate. So that happened a little bit later. And yeah, the rest is just more stories of relationships and more of my becoming and dark nights of the soul,
Right.
which you know what that is.
It's interesting. The last person that I interviewed, I believe. 2 days ago, um, we were kind of talking about like when you get to a near death experience or when you hit a crisis point of your life, it's always make or break when you hit that like hardest time of your life of what decision you ultimately make. And you going through therapy and trying the holistic help therapy route as well. What are the key differences between therapy versus like holistic health for in your view?
Well, therapy, if you're specifically talking about psychotherapy, it's traditionally more about the process. It's more about a client who maybe hasn't spoken about being perpetrated or how they have felt insignificant with their father start to talk about it. They're no longer denying it. Many people probably could benefit from therapy because they just don't talk.
Right.
So I feel like it's kind of an initiation to start exploring those things that maybe had influenced you. However, there's really not a goal for some solution. It's kind of to hold that space, and sometimes clients will see a therapist for 20 years and they still have depression. They
Hmm.
still are single and they don't want to. But uh, what ends up happening is that, the therapist becomes kind of a friend, I guess, and a confidant. And, the idea is that you're not in a relationship because you get clingy and you have attachment issues because you are abandoned. But that's not true. That might have influenced this person. However, there's ways to break through that, and I've seen it. So with coaching, it would be most coaches are more in the moment and it is outcome driven, such as if this person who had been single for a long time and they had been supposedly abandoned when they were a kid, like say the parents got a divorce and they just never saw their dad again. Uh, that a a coach would talk about what do you want, what's in your way right now, and how can we get there. Therapist is interested more in like how does this make you feel, what happened, where are you in your life. So there's kind of more like this introspection and exploring with therapy, with coaching. We're looking for progress, but
Interesting.
when you combine them together it's very powerful, and
Yeah.
that's the work I do.
And in my experience with therapy, I always feel that, to piggyback off of your point, they're looking more for the cause of what's making you feel the way you're feeling. Whereas, sometimes there'll be doctors that be like, oh, you have this symptom here, take this kind of medicine. Whereas therapy is like, okay, what is the root cause of why you're feeling this way? Why are you feeling depressed? And how can we get you to a point of where you want to start making progress? And that's where your line of work with the coaching comes in. And
Mhm.
I feel so many people take therapy for granted or just don't believe in therapy because that stigma of, oh, I don't want to tell people my problems, I don't want to have this conversation and
Mhm.
dig within ourselves of trying to get to that level of feeling better.
Well, anyone listening to this or watching us, let me tell you something. I'm going to let you in on a secret. The majority of your close friends and family already know your shadows, and they just tippy toe around it.
Hmm.
When you do that one thing that you do a lot and make excuses for, they know you're going to get defensive. They bring it up, or you're just not ready to hear it. But there's no secrets. There are no secrets. So rather than getting intertwined with a family member who's biased to where they might blame you for that behavior and how it impacted them in a negative way, take it to a therapist, take it to the coach where you can say, I think I was an asshole to, is it me? Is it her? Or whatever. You get an objective perspective.
Yeah.
And it's really good. It's a lot easier for you to see yourself in a pattern with someone who's not in a pattern with you.
Right. And I had myself circled around a bunch of people who weren't pro therapy, who weren't pro getting help. So it was just kind of like, oh, well, if you're feeling that way, just talk to me. I'm here for you. And it's like, okay, you're here for me. You're here for me. Keep hearing that over and over. But when I tell you some of the things that are going on, it's like, oh, you're feeling suicidal. Oh, you're feeling depressed. Well, I'm not well equipped enough to deal with that. So she's like, just smile. Everything's going to be okay. Just don't even think about it. Oh, right. Or just turn off the switch and everything's going to be okay. Right. Um,
Yeah.
when I first went to therapy, I was 27. It was after my second attempt.
Okay.
And I remember the first two sessions, I couldn't look my therapist in the eyes. I
Hmm.
just did nothing but cry because, as men, we don't talk about that stuff. It's not normal to talk
Well,
about our feelings, right?
well, it's also not just that. You just don't talk about spilt milk.
Right. And
Mhm.
after that, after the third session, when I finally just wanted to stop feeling this overwhelming feeling of depression and just being upset, it's like, okay, what steps can I take to do better for myself? And I stopped confiding in a lot of my friends because, like you said, therapy is for that uh, non-biased opinion or viewpoint of what you're going through and how to help you. So I'm very pro therapy. And again, guys, for those of you who have been following this podcast, or those of you who have been listening for as long as you have, I will always encourage people to go to therapy. Now, I do
Well, you're
believe,
alive. You're
yeah,
alive
right,
because of therapy, right? Let's just be
exactly.
real.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, I know therapy is not for everybody, but there's
No.
so many different routes. There's coaching like yourself. There's holistic healing. There's so many different avenues of healing, and it doesn't always look like therapy.
Mhm. Yeah. Regarding the suicide attempts, uh, when you tried the first time,
Mhm.
uh, I was curious, were you thinking you couldn't get out of a situation, or was it about you? What, meaning that there's the idea that, so I actually had spoken to a lot of people who were about to commit suicide. I worked at the D.D. Hirsch, I think, suicide hotline in Los Angeles. And so in those conversations, the way that you kind of relate and meet with the person who's there is no, don't tell them straight out, don't kill yourself. Because maybe most of their life, people have been telling them what to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's their final right, their
Hmm.
final free will, right? And so I would always try to commiserate where they were in that experience. And some of the questions I would ask would be, if we were able to wipe out all the feelings you have right now with this fucking blue pill, would you take the blue pill, or you just really want to end your life? It was always, I just don't like where I'm at. I don't like the experience. It was always that. Two, also, if you were to be found dead, who would you want to find you? It
Right.
was that one person who was always an asshole to them, who didn't apologize. There, it would definitely speak volumes of that story. And from that, the person would recognize that, oh, I'm doing this because I feel helpless, but I'm not helpless. I'm doing this because I want to get out of pain. I'm recognizing this is a lot of pain right now. It was just more connecting to that, and that would shift the person who was about to commit suicide,
Right.
their perspective on it. That alone.
Right.
What's your thoughts on that?
So first time I committed or not committed, when I attempted, I was 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was I can put myself in the shoes of both 14-year-old me and 27.
Yeah, yeah.
14-year-old me, I didn't know my place in life. I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. And to combat these thoughts, to combat the I'm going to be alone and I'm going to be like my parents, always angry, always fighting with each other. And they divorced when I was about 8 years old. So I'm still trying to process that without
Mhm.
therapy, without the proper guidance of how to deal with my anger and just being depressed. 14-year-old me just I had the means, I had a plan. I was going to do it at school where people can finally see me. It
Mhm.
wasn't going to be in my best hour. It wasn't going to be, I did something great. It was going to be horrific and people would have finally seen me. When I attempted, um, one of my friends caught wind because, I was really bad with self-harm. I came to school with ace bandages and always a long sleeve jacket in 90-degree weather in Florida. Um, and finally somebody caught wind of my attempt and the plan. I had the rope in my backpack, was ready to do it, and somebody got the resource officer and tackled me to the ground before I could jump.
Mhm.
And again, this is like 2006, so we were still really weren't encouraged to talk about the things that were
Hmm.
going on. So my mom and dad being, well, my dad didn't know about it till years later, but my mom just not being emotionally aware enough to get me the proper help. I was sent to this place called the Harbor, which is like a
Hmm.
outpatient clinic that I had therapists in there.
Hmm.
It paired me with a therapist who specialized in gambling addiction. Now, I remember those 3 sessions I had did absolutely nothing for me because she specialized in addiction, not depression, not suicidal ideologies or anything like that. It was just very. I don't remember taking anything out of those sessions to really tell you that benefited me in any way. So I
Hmm.
developed that mentality of, okay, well, I had this bad experience at therapy, so I'm never going to try that again.
Hmm.
27-year-old me is where everything started changing. Um, I wrote a suicide note on Facebook, deleted it within 5 minutes because I didn't want the attention. Um, as soon as I deleted it, I was ready to do what I was going to do, and my now late brother called me on the phone and said, "Hey, man, I just want you to know that I saw what you wrote and I saw that you deleted it. I just
Oh,
want you
wow.
to know that I care about you and I don't want you to do anything to hurt yourself." Thus, starting my journey of healing. And when I went to therapy and talked
How
about
did
it,
that feel to get that? How did that feel?
it felt so validating.
I know. Yeah.
I've never had anybody see me or hear me or
Hmm.
want to hear me for that matter. And when I say I'm there for people, I mean it with every ounce of my heart because so many people that are in that position of their life of where they just don't know what to do anymore. At the end of the day, we all just want to be heard. We all want to
Hmm.
be seen. And I think that's the hardest part for so many people is they feel like that people don't care enough to want to hear them.
Yes. Well, well, first off, when it comes to, say, social media, there can be a misconception of what a true friendship is versus someone just liking your post because you showed your boobs. Okay.
Right.
However, people who are socially awkward, who have challenges meeting people, they might rely on those interactions, whether it's talking to people through Instagram or even gaming. And so, but in that, when you turn off the computer, you turn off that connection, that person once again is alone with his or her thoughts.
Right.
And if they're alone with his or her thoughts in a home that's not happy, it just exasperates the problem. But here's the interesting thing, but before I go into that, even though I just met you, you've tried twice. You call me, you reach out to me, and I'm always open for you. Just remember that,
I appreciate
Chris.
it. Seriously,
Okay.
I greatly appreciate that.
Okay. So, again, I notice this with both men and women, but more with men.
Yeah.
When a man feels useful, when he feels like he can contribute, when he's seen a little bit for his efforts, it changes everything.
Absolutely.
And so there is the story of growing up in a home where you see adults who can't figure it out. So why would you want to be like that? As children, we can't really speak up, and if we do, we're not heard anyway. Also, we can't do anything about it because we have to live there, okay? So we're just absorbing all that shit like a sponge. And the issue is not so much whether parents fight. The issue is not about whether parents get a divorce. It's usually more about how the parents are not transparent with what's happening. So the children can adjust or make their own decision where they feel in control and can participate in a conversation. What happens is when a parent shuts down any question because they're going through their shit over your mom or your dad, and it hurts you because you don't want to take sides. You see both parents hurting, you're stuck feeling that shit. If your dad were to look at you and have tears in his eyes, and he were to say, right now I don't have the answers, son, you would feel more certainty with that. So it's the lack of communication through the challenges to help you make sense of it. And so in a way, you people don't have that experience, then they go to therapy, then they start making sense out of it. Does
Right.
that make sense?
Yeah.
If we were to communicate better in a transparent way, we might not need therapists. I don't know.
I agree.
Maybe it'd be just for trauma or like really, the real difficult things are when people truly have mental illness.
Right. And one thing I feel like not enough people talk about is when parents have their favorite kids when they're going through, hard times, right?
Hmm.
I'm the oldest of three. I have a
Hmm.
little brother and a little sister. When my little sister was born, that was my mom's favorite.
Hmm.
Like my brother was born, that was my dad's, and it manifested into that more and more as we got older, and especially when they got divorced. I was probably treated the worst out of all three of us. I was called names by my mom. I was called stupid by my dad. Just it was always a reoccurring theme growing up because it was just like he can do no wrong, she can do no wrong. Oh well, you're the oldest, so everything's your fault. It's everything fell down on me. Um, I had a teacher that I met in, I think, first grade, right when my parents got divorced. She taught me how to tie my shoes. She saw me for the very first time after my parents got divorced. Me
Hmm.
and her are good friends to this day, and that was over 20 something years ago. And every time we talk about the things I went through growing up, it's just like, I knew you were going through stuff, but I didn't know it was that bad at home. I always
Hmm.
tried to be there for you more than just a teacher because I knew that you needed that.
Hmm.
And, to bounce off of your transparent comment, I really wish my parents would have taught me healthier ways to deal with their divorce, healthier ways to communicate. Hey, I feel like shit because you guys are always arguing, and I feel like it's my fault because I don't understand what you're arguing about. And,
Hmm.
in that time of growing up, there were so many cops involved in her relationships. There were so many times we moved because of her relationships.
So
And
lack of safety,
right, lack of safety, lack of communication, lack of
lack of
stability.
boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
And it took me 27 years to understand and process that in a healthy manner.
So this is interesting. Most people don't know this, and I hope everyone gets this. So now, don't quote me. I am not given a diagnosis, and I sometimes say stuff it's hard for traditional psychotherapists or psychologists to grasp because it sounds a little bit out there, but a lot of if a person's nervous system is overstimulated, then they're not going to experience the joy of life. Just remember that. Number two, if a person's nervous system is overstimulated, they're going to think about life and things more from the space of survival and defending, which is separating yourself from others because you do not feel safe. Third, if a person does not feel safe in their environment, they're not thriving. The side effect of that is depression. The side effect of that could be just constant, like fear of uncertainty. You know, because if you're always taxed with uncertainty, your body's not growing.
Right.
Your cells are dying. You're not expanding your awareness. You know what I mean? Like, so it's similar to like a person who finds that job and he doesn't change his job description and he's in that factory and it's the same thing and nothing's going to get better and it's the same conversations. We see people like that and they look really bitter. They
Right.
kind of have that Robert De Niro face. They look angry all the time and it's like life fucking punched them in the face.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know why he looks angry all the time, but the point is like, you see people like that.
Yeah.
And whereas you look at more feminine people or artistic people or people who like to dance or people who like music to where they're not taking life so seriously, where they seem to be happier. They seem to be more in that flow. They're enjoying, life itself. And so I've had, for example, it's interesting, like during the lockdown, a lot of people went into depression just because they weren't getting sunlight,
Right.
you know? So we can shift who we are by getting out of our environment. But when we're kids, we're in that environment. And
Right.
it can be a helpless feeling because you can't tell mom, dad to leave. If if you're too young to take the car and drive somewhere, drive to your girlfriend's house, you're fucked. So it's like you can't change your environment. So that's why it's paramount for families when they're going through challenges that they recognize that, hey, everyone has to participate at their level that they understand.
Right.
Such as if you are 6 years old, you know, divorce doesn't mean anything to you. Doesn't even make sense. So a parent might say this, hey, Chris, we love you. We're going to change things. Daddy has a new place and mommy has our old house. And we're going to visit. Oh, I want to see you guys together. We're still going to do that, but it's just new change. You know what I mean? Why? Mommy and daddy, we have problems sometimes. You do, like your sister and you don't get along like that. You can communicate to children at their level to get an understanding because here's the thing, they're witnessing it anyway. You fucking knew that shit long ago, long before you were like a teenager.
Yeah.
You can sense like this doesn't feel like love.
Right. Right.
So
And
they weren't fooling anybody.
right. And the worst part was them using us as weapons against each other.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, well, you're not going to see them for a week or you're not going to see them for a month. And that happened.
Yeah.
That was horrible.
Yeah,
But
emotional blackmail fucking pisses me off.
yeah, it's the worst feeling that you could possibly relive, especially if you remember everything.
Mhm.
So kind of going into parents a little bit. If I'm not mistaken, you said both of your parents struggled from PTSD, right?
Yes, they both did. They had
Okay,
their quirks, strange things they would
right.
do.
So what was the
Yes.
toughest part of growing up with parents that had PTSD? I believe your father served, right?
In the Marines, yes.
Right.
Well, here's something to share as well. If you have a parent who actually talks to you,
Hmm.
tells you that he loves you, he's fair, he owns his mistakes, he always shows up, this, how he is as a human being, outweighs his rage.
Right.
I just want to share that.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's is it the PTSD or that your dad's just an asshole? So it's clear that my dad was really cool, but he did sometimes have challenges. It wasn't that bad when I was younger, but as he when he got older, it started. Well, we were on a boat cruise, and we were with some Vietnamese women, or they were sitting at the same table, and I just saw his face look really strange. He looked at me and he said, Ray, I gotta leave. I gotta leave. So he went into the cabin. He said, when I started hearing them talk, I just saw blood. I started
Oh,
going into like really bad thoughts. And that's when we learned like it was starting to show up for him. And what's interesting is that he didn't, even with that, he didn't get help. My dad started seeing a therapist when he was 80.
wow.
He was in World War II, the Korean War, and 3 tours in Vietnam. But again, think of a man who's consistent and follows through. That created safety and constancy. And that, I guess you say that would override the other shit.
Right.
Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
even with your parents' divorce and how they were, if there was structure in where you stood in a relationship or what was going on, you would have felt as though you had a better life map. Okay. When you said, I didn't have this sense of belonging, like earlier in this call, like that feeling,
Mhm.
if you had a life map or you feel like you mattered and you had a purpose, you wouldn't have had that feeling.
Right. Right.
So I'm not blaming your parents, but I'm saying that,
Yeah.
like, again, particularly I say for like men, as long as they have a map how to improve one simple thing, they feel pretty good. And when they accomplish that, they'll put themselves up to challenge again and try another thing. And then in time, it's like they feel better because just that little thing builds that confidence.
Right. And you know, the hardest part for me, uh, so going to my dad's, that half of the relationship, he never taught me the essentials of being a man. He never taught me like the thing that he never gave me a roadmap of anything. It was
Mm-hmm.
always met with insults. It was like, oh well, why don't you know that? Or, just he was never emotionally intelligent enough to really explain things for a teenager or a younger kid to really understand life. It was always just anger. It was always insults. And growing older and going through therapy like I am now and just understanding like, wow, now that I've done the work for myself, the inner child work that I've needed to do, I told my therapist like maybe 2 sessions ago that my father is literally the unhealed version of me.
Oh,
And she was just like, she just kind of had her jaw on the ground. I was like, wow, that makes so much sense because he's angry, he's bitter, and just that's how I was growing up. And
mm-hmm.
that's how I was teenage, early 20s.
Yeah.
And now that I look back at how my parents are now, I have super boundaries on both of them.
Huh. Yeah.
And that's the hardest part I feel like in healing and growing as a person and as a man is boundaries are so important. And why so here's a question I have for you. Why do you feel people struggle putting boundaries on family members or just maybe in general?
Because most people, so funny, every time I say most, and if I don't have like the actual numbers, I feel like Trump. So and I never had these thoughts before until like he was out there and started talking, you
Mhm.
know. So, and I'm not being political, it just kind of
Oh,
makes
it's
me
okay.
laugh.
You're okay.
So let's say I can say this because I see it all the time. Majority of the people I know or see, whether online or in person in different circles, we just all want to be liked.
Yeah.
Bottom line. Number one, we want to be liked. And we have all been rejected before, such as we ask the girl for her phone number, or we try to get a job interview, or we want to get on a cheerleading squad. That was me. No, just kidding. And um, someone said no. And so we have all remembered that, but we didn't integrate that in a healthy way. We didn't hear it as no, uh, maybe next year, or no. Um, I'm going through a lot of problems. It's not you. We took it as it must have been about us,
Right.
something we did that was wrong. We don't ever have that conversation why we heard that no. So oftentimes we will project onto that person who we want to create a boundary with the feelings that we might have if we were to experience that.
Right.
And that's the issue. And so more and often I'll see this more with women where they'll say, when I say no, I feel guilty. I feel I'm responsible for his happiness. I'm working with a couple right now they're getting a divorce. And she told me that she feels as though has been leading the relationship like more in a masculine, and that her husband will never follow through. And that in a way she said she felt like she's raising a third child. Okay. All right. And what's interesting is that while we were going through the process, the session yesterday, she was starting to get mad because he was feeling helpless. He was starting to feel more like she was feeling like instead of her crying and grieving the loss of her marriage, she felt bad her husband wasn't feeling good. And the whole reason why she has stayed in a relationship this long was because of that very reason. She didn't feel he can take care of himself. But this time she actually started getting angry, like this, I be a man. I want to know that you're going to be okay. I want you to work on yourself. You need to be this way for the kids. And she went from crying to anger because yeah, like he couldn't keep it together. And so a lot of people out there they don't want to hurt other people's feelings. There's a lot of people pleasers in the world,
Yeah.
and particularly with someone who felt neglected from love, it could be you. I don't know that you might find yourself in that category sometimes because you're yearning for love.
Absolutely.
Unconsciously, it's like, oh, well, I'll take the fucking appetizers. No, you don't need appetizers unless it comes with a full meal.
Right.
So, so you settle. Men typically become the nice guy where, they'll say yes to the girl that maybe likes them or not to take them to LAX at 4 p.m. on a Friday. It's going to take 3, 4 hours of their time, and they're not going to get a kiss or anything, but they'll just go for it because she's hot,
Right.
because
Right.
they're the nice guy and are hoping that maybe something could shift. And then you have the people pleaser who are women. And sometimes those are women who witness their mother taking care of the alcoholic father,
Mm.
or a single mother who, uh, you know, she relied on community to support her, so she was always just being generous and making everyone happy. You know, we we seem to model these things.
Right.
So that was a long-winded response to your question. Wow.
That's perfectly okay.
Okay.
I feel that, for me personally, my brother, my sister, and I all don't talk to our mom now. It got to a point where we had to create that boundary where we just don't talk to her anymore because
Hmm.
it's just very toxic relationship.
Hmm.
Um, I was the last of all three of us to stop talking to her, and it's funny because she did the most to me growing up. She was vile to me growing up,
Hmm.
and my explanation for it was I don't want anything to happen to her because I was the last person to stop talking to her. And
Hmm.
I kept trying to justify that in my head. I'm like, oh, well, if she were to take her life, it would be my fault. And I kept telling myself that, well, if I cut her off, I block her, she's going to take her life and it's going to be my fault. And
Hmm.
I had that conversation with my therapist and I said, Jess, I don't want to cut her off because if she takes her life, I'm going to feel like it's my fault. I don't know what to do. And I feel like she would do it out of spite because unfortunately, that's the kind of person she is. And she's like, you can't take responsibility for the type of person that your mom is. If she's going to do something, she's going to do something, but you
Yeah.
can't think of the worst possible scenario by setting a boundary for yourself. And I think I blocked her for like 2 years before I had a conversation with her again. Um, this past August was the first time in 2 years I actually talked to her. I
Hmm.
said, "Hey, want to wish you a happy 50th birthday. Not interested in a relationship or any more of a conversation, but you deserve to at least be told happy birthday and I hope you have a good day." And that was it.
Hmm.
Um,
Is
boundary
that,
for
but
me.
do you actually believe that, or you feel as though that if it were to happen, you would still believe it? That it is your fault?
So I used to feel that way. I don't feel that way anymore
Okay.
because understanding the manipulative type of personality that she has, that was just her, having her things, embedded in me. It was just kind
Hmm.
of releasing that toxic feeling of that relationship. And when I cut her off, it was so gratifying, right? It was
Hmm.
the best feeling in the world when I stopped talking to her because
Hmm.
I'd have to worry about what she was going to do and have to worry about where she was going to live. She just keeps creating a pattern and creating just a mess behind her and just has
Hmm.
no sense of accountability
Yeah.
and just had enough.
Yeah. So, um, you said that you don't have those thoughts anymore, like if she were to kill herself. But I wanted to say something to that. It's logical in that it's this. We all, I mean, particularly now, it'd be different if it was the 1950s, 60s. As an example, alcoholism wasn't really known.
Right.
You know what I mean? It wasn't really known. So we didn't know how to treat it. We didn't know it was a serious problem, right? Um, so this is a kind of a similar thing too, where we're aware now that there's more suicides. We are aware now of how it impacts the survivors. We now know that there are resources to help people who are suicidal. Your mother is tapped into that. She's also has seen movies and TV shows where someone committed suicide and it fucked up a lot of people in the home for a while. So remember, she's not separate from the knowingness of what would be the right thing to do.
Right.
So if she chooses the wrong thing, that is on her. And that's what your therapist is saying.
Right. Yeah. I completely agree. And it's one of those things I had to pull myself out with force out of that mentality because
Hmm.
it wouldn't have been my responsibility to make sure she stays alive.
Yep.
And just accepting that she's never going to change, same with my father, is the hardest lesson I've ever had to learn. It was the hardest pill to swallow because, at the end of the day, we want to love our parents. We want to believe that they're great, loving people. And unfortunately, neither of that is true for both of my parents. They're not loving, they're not caring.
Hmm.
And at one point in my life before I went to therapy, I said if I was dead on the side of the road somewhere, they would have been the last to know about it because they don't care enough to keep tabs on me. And
Hmm.
that's still the truth to this day.
There's something you say, and you've said it a few times. I'm thinking, God, it sounds like I'm coaching a little bit, but it's a lot of times when people have parents who are not that loving,
Hmm.
that parents who say vile things and are neglectful, there's a story that a lot of people say, not just yourself. All the people say it. I know all of them. Is that fuck me? I just had a brain fart for a second here. So say what you said. I know what it is. It's the story of they disrespected me. It's a
Hmm.
story of they should have known better. It's a story if they were healthy parents. It's a story of it's the idea of how they did something to you and the kids. And that energy, that the way it's shared in that way could put you in a victim mindset forever
Right.
because it creates the idea that they were conscious of their actions. You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
So you'll
Mhm.
take it more personal.
Right.
So it's very important for you to recognize, no, hurt people fucking hurt people.
Right.
Hurt people hurt people. Uh, Disconnected people don't talk to the kids. Um, those who are apathetic don't feel what's happening to their children. Um, those who don't have a purpose are often lost and don't keep tabs on others because they're just trying to get through life. I can go through every, say, negative statement about them that's saying like it's as if they should know better and turn it around the way I just did. And if you could do that also, I mean, you'll find yourself experiencing, even when you talk about them, a little differently.
Yeah.
It gets rid of that power,
Right.
that energy, because they don't know better. And then also, the more you recognize that they're hurt people and they don't love themselves, then if you don't talk to your mom for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, it's not like you feel like you're missing love.
Right.
You're just not talking to this human being that had you, that's
Right.
supposed to be your biological mom.
Right.
You are in love with your partner. You're in love with life. You're in love with your friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're going to love anyway. She's not capable of it. And if she were a new friend who was not capable of holding your boundaries, if she were a new friend who that was always pessimistic and would never celebrate your wins, you wouldn't even talk to her, dude.
Right.
So when people try to revisit that conversation with their parents and their parents haven't done any healing, it's similar to like you going to some ghost town and seeing this well that hasn't been used in 80 years, and you go, oh, I got a clever idea. There's still a bucket there, and you start, you know, lowering the bucket, thinking, oh, maybe I'll get some fucking water. And it hits the bottom. You kind of hear the rocks. You pull it up, and you kind of go, whoa, I'm surprised. And then you do it again
Right. Right.
when if you listen to yourself by connecting to your presence, you'll
Yeah.
hear, dude, there's a river,
Yeah.
up the road. Forget
Right.
about this well.
Yeah.
It's non-functional, you know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
your parents, your mom are not functional in a way to have a healthy relationship with you. So therefore, don't lower the bucket in an empty well.
Yeah. And the biggest thing for me was always trying to chase that validation from my father.
Hmm.
And when I stopped doing that, I stopped giving him power. I stopped trying to
Mhm.
believe that things were going to be different. And when I started accepting that he was never going to change, I've already gotten to the point where I know my mom wasn't going to. But in the last like year or two with my
Mhm.
dad, and just realizing that nothing's gonna get better with him. It's just more or less gonna be the same every conversation. Keep it short, keep love him
Mhm.
from a distance, and move on with my own life. Create my own traditions. Create my own little family with my friends. And I always tell my friends this who have problems with their family. It's like, man, create your own traditions. You don't have to go to family Thanksgivings and be miserable. You can just do stuff on your own. Do Friendsgivings. Go out on Christmas Day,
Yes.
and it's really hard for a lot of people to do that because uh, everybody tells you that. Oh, well, it's your family. You gotta love your family no matter what. It's like I disagree there, but that works for you, I guess.
There's an exercise in my book, All It Takes Is One, this book here, where it's called a collective release ceremony. And that is the process I went through to also help me become closer to my parents. And there's around 26 statements that you say, and there's a release with that, so you could be detached from that idea. As an example, some women will live their entire lives with this experience that they missed out because they didn't have a child. Where did that come from? That's not a truth. It's not a universal truth. Every woman should have a kid, or every human being should be married, or every man over 40 should own their own house. Do you understand? There's a lot of outdated like shit out there we compare ourselves with that makes us feel unworthy.
Right.
So in this process, we do get to talking about our parents, such as where did uh, where did you have unmet expectations about your mom, to what did you think the perfect mom was, to like being able to let go of that idea so you can let go of the idea that she should have known better or could have done better.
Right.
It's just recognizing that she's another human being, with a soul, and that she's here on her own free will. I've communicated to my best ability. I've become a good man anyway. I've done therapy anyway. And I know I'm speaking nonviolent communication, and she's still not showing up. So this is just where she's at. I'm not saying no forever, but until she kind of does some more development or whatever, I'll just take her in small doses. And that's a healthy choice, dude. That's a freaking healthy choice.
Absolutely. And it takes that power away from both of them, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So I believe in your bio you said you're a single parent, right? You're a single dad.
Yes.
What is the most important lesson that you try to teach to your son, right? Your
Son?
son?
Yeah,
Yeah.
son Max. Well, I'll give you something really deep. So I have shared with my son that he does not have to love me if he doesn't choose to.
Hmm.
Okay? I've shared with him that I want you to love me because you love me as a human and not because of default as your dad. And that way, that means I will always show up as the best human being no matter what for him. And if I'm not, he can call me out. But it's more where I want him to know that I am so unconditionally in love with him that I also would accept how he feels about me. Talk about freedom.
I love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
freedom. Yeah, yeah. And so my son is 10 years old. He's really cool. He's really cool. Uh, but yeah, he's a funny guy. And that's one thing. And I'll share another one. So early on, when we were watching, TV shows, we don't watch a lot of TV, but movies, there are two types of scenes that they always show. And one scene is where they'll show people break up and the person just starts fucking drinking and, doing shitty things, doing cocaine or whatever, right? It's
Right.
always a bad choice.
Right.
And whereas with Max, I said, does that make sense to you that you feel bad already, then you just continue to feel bad rather than go to the gym, seeing a coach? I said, this is how most human beings behave. That's why they make TV and film about this, because it's for views. Most humans identify with pain and that kind of victim mentality. Whereas when it comes to being inspired and being able to take back your power, maybe they won't get a bunch of views. So I've shared that with him for him to recognize that. Because a lot of things that we say, it came from somewhere, but it's not true.
Right.
Even after a death, both my parents passed away. My dad died in 2021, my mom 2019, because I was raised Jewish and Buddhist, and because death became part of living, like we spoke about it openly, even when they're alive. My dad already had bought his coffin. When they're alive, what he talked about what he wants, when he
Wow.
dies, to be buried with his uniform. He didn't care about the medals. In fact, we found him in a fucking shoebox, dude. It's like so typical of that old generation who's humble, who doesn't
Right.
give a fuck. 11 air medals, dude. I didn't know that until my dad died.
Wow.
I'm like going, it was like a Forrest Gump moment, or like, when like there's these stories of these badass grandfathers. Oh, he got this silver star. It was like that, dude. They really existed, dude. Like, and so, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but what was I saying right before that?
The lesson you we were talking about your son. It just then it went to the parents.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I was going with that. God, I got lost. It's a little late.
It's
I'm
okay.
sorry, listeners. That like, yeah, I promise I'm not smoking weed. I
Okay.
just forgot.
Oh,
I
okay.
actually, I actually did not. I actually didn't sleep very well last night. Like I got up like 4 or 5 times. So, yeah,
Those are the worst days to wake up to, man. I feel you. Um,
yeah.
so here's a question that I feel like is always important to ask, just because man to man. Why do you feel that still in 2024? Why do you feel that men still have a hard time talking about what they're going through? Because we talked a little bit about suicide earlier. We talked a little bit about the numbers. We see them continue to rise, and
Hmm.
they haven't leveled out. They haven't. More people aren't talking still. Why do you feel like men are still struggling to share that they're struggling?
Well, with here's the thing. Uh, a lot of men don't realize that if they were to be transparent, that women would be actually attracted to them. What women are really looking for is true, like information, like gather that so they can make a decision whether to stay with you or not. Bottom line, a lot of women are very independent and they're okay with not being with a man. So a lot of men are just holding back, trying to be something that they're not. So they can get a promotion, so they can get the woman. So there's this idea like as long as I stay strong or fake it, they won't like find out that I'm actually not worthy or I'm not as good as you think I am. And so there's a lot of that. So they might not open themselves up to it. And the other part would be this is that if a man shares his feelings, and it also depends on the culture. I'll give you an example. Imagine being in an office, and I know this is very, I'm sure I'm going to get hit with some of this shit, but it'll be like a woke person. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But this is a generalization.
Hmm.
Remember, I'm prefacing as a generalization. If a man were to be in an office and he's like, "Oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, blah blah blah, I
Right.
don't know what to do," there's not going to be hot chicks going, "Oh my God, I can't wait to take care of him. I can't wait to make him fucking pancakes." You know what I mean? The dude's not going to get laid. Okay, let's be raw. If there's a woman, I don't know what I'm doing, blah, 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 there's going to be so many guys
Yeah.
to rescue her.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if women go, "That's bullshit," have you been?
That's
Do you
the
want to be in a
truth.
man's
That's
shoes?
the truth.
Yeah, yeah.
You
So,
know, it's funny that so a couple years ago, my friend was saying he just got out of a breakup and everything. He was really upset about it, and he's like, the comment he made was, "Women don't really get wet; they go from raft to raft." And I'm like,
mhm,
"Well, what do you mean by that?" He's like, "There's always a guy waiting to
mhm,
pick up that girl from that breakup." And
mhm,
meanwhile, there's the guys that don't get into a relationship right
mhm,
away. Kind of like you were just saying, we don't. We don't cry out in public. We don't talk about
Mhm.
those things because we're worried about the perception of the public. And, for me, when it comes to like me sharing and me talking about my story and telling my truth and saying how I feel, it's never with tears in my eyes. I feel like if you speak from like strength, like, hey, like I overcame this, and yeah, all these things
Yes.
sucked,
Mhm.
and it was some of the worst times in my life, and so many times, oftentimes more than not, I didn't want to be here anymore. But you know what? Healing is so possible if you start talking about it. You don't have
Yep.
to cry. You don't have to, wallow in your sorrows. You can say it from strength and still be a man and rub dirt in
Mhm.
it. And I hate hearing those phrases because it's like, man, I hear you. We can be protectors and we can be providers, but we need to be those things for ourselves too. Protect
Yes.
yourself.
Mhm.
Protect those things that hurt you when we were younger, because man, there's so much shit that I still have not to this day openly talked about because they're really hard truths to realize. I'm like, damn,
Mhm.
yeah, I really did those things, and that really happened to me, and I don't want to talk about it. But you know what,
Yeah.
man? Telling your story can be told without tears in your eyes. And I
Mhm.
have no shame in telling my story. And if that turns people away, if that turns people off, okay, then it wasn't for you. And that's
Yeah.
my mentality forever.
Isn't it great to live out loud?
It really is.
Yeah,
It
it's really
really
cool.
is.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this. So on this call, what, 10, 12 minutes ago, I dropped whatever I was saying, I forgot. So there's an example where I made a mistake and I'm supposed to sound smart, but I'm human and I'm not firing on all cylinders right now because I got up at 4 a.m. and I had very little sleep. It's okay. Usually I'm very quick. I can talk really fast, but I don't identify to perfectionism anymore. And I don't ever tell a host, hey, can we stop and go back? Life
Right.
just moves forward.
Yeah.
And so with that acceptance, like it gets easier. No one, unless you're just an asshole and heard what 10 minutes ago and you're going, I can't believe you blew it. I'm like, well, I'm just saying, fuck you, okay? That person. But for most of the people here, they're probably going, it didn't even matter. I wish I got the end of the story because it sounded interesting, but hopefully people feel my heart
Yeah.
and realness with you.
Yeah.
And that's if you're just real, and you're open, like even real, like your parents. Hey, we're your parents. We're young and we don't have our shit figured out. Just be real as much as you can. And if you don't know how to talk, you get people to help you out.
Yeah.
So, we need people to be real, transparent, and authentic, and things won't get so blocked.
Yeah. I agree. And one of my favorite sayings is if you're not raw, you're not real.
Yeah.
And I don't like talking through a mask. I don't like pretending like everything's okay when they're not. If I'm not okay, I'm gonna tell you, hey, I'm not okay. And it's okay to say that out loud. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel so many people have a problem with that one sentence. Like, man, there are people in high places that are musicians with millions of dollars. Chester Bennington, who is one of my favorite human beings in the world, told you guys how he was feeling for years before he took his life.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter how successful you are, doesn't matter how many degrees you have, how much money you have. We're all human beings. And I'm so happy that you said that, man, because it's so hard to find like really humble and really real people in this community sometimes, because like we're all hypnotized by views, we're all hypnotized by how many likes that a comment's going to get you. And
Mm-hmm.
being as raw as you are, being as real as you have been, man, I again genuinely appreciate your insight on that, man, because it's
Well,
so
it's been
important
fun
to do.
chatting with you, and yeah, thank you for having me on this call.
So one question I ask all my guests this towards the end is, if you could change one thing in this community, what would it be?
It would be to help people use feedback better, such
Absolutely.
as um, it to use it for higher learning, to recognize a person might be saying this because they actually care and they're being really vulnerable. It's just as uncomfortable for them to say it as it is for you to hear it, but there might be gems in there. Like there's people who really love you and are willing to be like non-biased and just tell you what they feel is not working in your life and to tell you like what they feel is really working in your life, you'll hear some stuff. And so as an example, my God, I should just go through my book a third time. I forgot some of the stuff I have written in there because I edited some stuff. But an exercise that I have people do to really get clarity of how they might be shown up is this: get at least three people together, at least a mix of male and female. I guess it's okay if it's a they, but you want to get different types of people, and you first send them a message, whether it's through text or email or voice message. Hey, I'm working with a coach. I really want to grow, and I really value your input. And I'm not going to defend. I'm not going to deny. I just want to hear what you have to say. And then when we're done with this call, we can circle back and talk if it feels right. First question, what do you see working in my life? Second question, what do you see not working in my life? Third, if you were me, what would you change or do differently in my life? Number four, is there anything I've done to hurt you? That's it. The last one is more of the gift to them. And also that there might be like some hidden resentment.
Yeah.
And that will break open the relationship in a better way forever.
Absolutely.
Because they say, yeah, when you left me that, strand in there and you didn't really take accountability, it's a rough spot in my body. All you have to say is that I'm sorry. I didn't know. So that exercise alone would probably point out the ways that you show up when you're trying to date, to what happens when you're at a meeting and maybe you botch it because you tried too hard. Your friends might say, I think you just tried too hard. Like all of that shit, there's just so much valuable insight.
Right.
Listen to feedback better. That's what's helped me.
Yeah. That's a good one. And, earlier when you were talking about kind of like slipping into that victim mentality when I was speaking on my parents, that helped me a lot too. Cause like, I know sometimes people can fall into that mentality and not really meaning to. It's like, oh, well, they did this, and this to me. But, countering it with all the strength that you found with all in that, I feel like is super important too. So thank you for that criticism earlier. Not really criticism, but just kind of like feedback, because I feel like it was really important for me to hear, because I know sometimes telling my story about my parents can kind of drop me into that little bowl of darkness for a quick second there. So thank you again for that.
Thank you for receiving it. Honestly, Chris, what excites me more is when a man receives what I have to share and they do something with it. It changes their life, shifts their perception. And I'll tell you why, what's interesting for me. Like, I used to learn from elders.
Mm-hmm.
I used to listen to older people. A lot of younger people don't listen to older people anymore.
Yeah.
So when that exchange happens, you are reciprocating, with me as well by sharing it. So thank you, brother.
Yeah, of course, man. So before we close out today, where can our listeners find you on socials?
So I know that you're going to provide some links down below, but
Mhm.
the best one would be my website, raydoktor.com, raydoktor.com. That's my real name. Also, you're going to have a link that will take them there, but also if they want to get my book, you can read the Amazon reviews. That they're pretty freaking amazing. It's a simple book. I try to streamline and make things really simple. That was actually one of my goals. Like, I've read so many self-help books. If they would have just chopped off this fat and just got to this,
Yeah.
and so if you get it, you'll see. I think you'll have the experience too. Like, oh, he has this in a way to just kind of push the reader along to
Yeah.
experience value now. So I'll provide that link also for you.
Awesome, man. To that point, really quick, I feel like there's so many books that put all that extra juice in there that doesn't need it all the time. It's just like, I get where you're going with this, but like, all right, I'm trying to get help. I'm not like trying to read a 3.5 essay and write it and read it back to you like, oh, well, this is what I got in here, but maybe I got this, but I'm not sure.
My
Um,
book's only 168 pages.
Perfect.
I think spread out with all the other stuff in it, it comes to 180, but it's really not long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not bad at all. But so at the end of every podcast, I like to read a quote based on mental health or
Okay.
just on a topic in general. If you have anything for the listeners, please feel free to share.
I don't have a quote. I just usually make them up on a
Yeah,
spot. Do you want me to share something?
please do.
Okay, this is a one to really, really, really sink in. If you get offended by what you see on social media, if someone says something and you feel a certain way, such as negative, if you're just thinking about an opportunity such as you're attracted to a woman, but you get shy and feel bad, remember, none of that is true, meaning there is nothing about the situation outside of you that's creating that experience within. You are the feeler of your experiences. You are the feeler of your experiences. So, with that knowingness, that means that if you can control your feelings, you can have complete control over how you show up, how you feel emotionally, how you show up with presence.
I love that. That's a good one.
Just remember that, like, wait a minute, I'm creating that experience within, such as someone might cut you off while you're driving and you're just angry while this person's like listening to fucking Kenny G, just driving like a jack off. He's oblivious to what's happening on the road, and you're freaking hitting your steering wheel. You're the one who's having high blood pressure in that moment. You're the one who is in fight or flight and stressed out. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
remember that that's that as well.
right.
That as well. Remember, you're the one who's feeling the discomfort in your body, not the guy listening to the Kenny G, and he's driving 40 miles per hour in the fast lane. That actually happened,
I love
Chris.
that analogy. That's a good one.
Dude, it was me, dude. I was the fucking asshole. Huh? I drove by and I'm mad, and this guy he looked at me, he actually waved. He had no idea. He cut me off. And that was a moment I went, oh my God, this is me.
I love
This
it.
is me.
That's a good one.
I know.
So,
All right.
so the quote I have is from Brene Brown, and it reads, "Vulnerability sounds like truth and feels like courage. Truth and courage aren't always comfortable, but they're never weakness."
Yeah. Yeah.
That last part, oh my God, that one resonated with me pretty heavy because I feel like so many of us are so accustomed to the routines that we have in our life when we don't want to step out of our comfort zone for anything. And
Mhm.
when we do, it's just like, oh, I'm doing something wrong. This doesn't feel natural. But when you do it and you start feeling really good about it, and you might not be perfect at it right away, but man, there's so much strength within stepping out of your comfort zone, man. So yeah, that was today's quote. Again, Ray, thank you so very much for
Okay.
coming on today's podcast. Great conversation, a lot of really good back and forth, man, and greatly appreciate your insight on everything.
It's been fun. Remember, I told you called me, dude. I mean, I know you're gonna be fine, but I'm open. You can
Yeah,
always call me and reach out.
I
So,
appreciate that, man, sincerely.
all right, brother.
For all my listeners, thank you guys so much for supporting as always. Till next time, much love, and as always, be gentle with yourselves. Take care, guys.